Good evening, everybody. My name is Larry Smith. Welcome to Credit Talk. I'll be sitting in for Todd Stern today. I'm a consumer rights lawyer in Chicago. I'm here to help you today. So if you have any questions at all you want to talk about, anything regarding credit and Credit Talk, you can call us at 312-738-1060. I'll be here to answer your questions. Tonight I'm going to talk a little bit about disputing your credit report. That's something that you have an absolute right to do, is dispute your credit report. Whether you're correct or not correct legally, you still have the right to raise a dispute. And there are different ways you can dispute your credit report. There's 3 different ways you can do it. You can write a letter, you can simply call the credit bureaus, or you can go online into their online system. Those are the 3 ways you can do it. So, the credit bureaus would probably prefer that you use their online system. If you've ever seen a problem on your credit report, and you've wanted to dispute it and you've gone online to investigate, you'll find that the credit bureaus have a nice, nifty online system. And that's an easy way for you to dispute your credit report very quickly. I don't recommend the online system be used. The online system has its flaws. For instance, if you've ever done it, you'll see that when you go online and you want to dispute a particular item, you identify the account, and then you have a pull-down menu that you have to choose one of, I think, 7 different choices. And then there's a little space next to it that fits 100 characters, and you have to put your whole dispute into that. Well, let's say, and here's a true story, let's say that you're somebody that traded in a vehicle to a car dealership. And that car dealership, when you traded that vehicle, agreed to pay off the note that you had on that car. Well, what happens if the car dealership flakes on it, makes a mistake, loses the check, or does something erroneously that the check doesn't make it to your bank on time? Your loan doesn't get paid off and you're late. Well, that scenario is not in the pull-down menu when you dispute your credit report. So, obviously, certain situations aren't good for disputing online. How about calling up the credit bureaus? Well, how do you know they really understood what you were talking about? What if there were language barrier issues? A lot of these caller centers are overseas. If you ever called the credit bureaus to dispute your credit report, you might find that you're speaking with somebody overseas. You might have issues understanding each other. You might be frustrated. And who's to prove who said what in that situation? If they don't handle your credit properly, who's to prove who said what? So that leaves writing the credit bureaus. And I do believe that that's the best way to dispute your credit report, is writing to the credit bureaus. Pen and paper, computer typewriter, and tell them. You list out specifically what's wrong with the credit report, specifically what the problem is, identify who you are, give them your name, your date of birth, and your social. Don't be afraid about that. I know people are very guarded about their social security numbers, and you should be. But go ahead and give them your social security number because they have to identify you. List the account on your letter, specifically the ones that you're disputing. If you're disputing an address, dispute the address. If you're disputing an inquiry, list the name of the inquiry. But when you identify the account, put as much of the account number as you're able. And then write succinctly, or write a good story as to what's wrong with that particular item on your credit. Tell them why you believe it's not right. Use your words, your own words, whatever you want to say it. Excuse me. If you have documents that prove or support what you're saying, those documents should be enclosed in your letter, and you should identify them and tell them, I'm enclosing name of the document, and this will explain why I'm right. And when you send that out to the credit bureau, send it to them, and then they have 30 days to conduct an investigation. And when they're done with that investigation, they have to give you a call, or when they're done with that investigation, they have to write you. I should say, give me a call. Let me know if you have any questions about what I'm explaining to you. But they have to write you a letter, send it back to you through the mail, and they have to tell you what the results of the investigation were. And they have to give you other information too. They have to tell you that if you would like to see what they did in the investigation and how they went about it, you can request that. They also will give you the name and address of the creditor reporting information about you. And you can contact them if you want to have your dispute directly with them. So that's what you will get when you dispute your credit report, and disputing your credit report the right way. So we're here on Credit Talk. Give me a call, 312-738-1060. Again, Larry Smith here. I'm a lawyer. I'm a consumer rights lawyer here in Chicago. So I've seen it all. I can help you out. All right, give us a call. I gave you a scenario. I talked a little bit about it for a second there. A situation where somebody trades in their vehicle and their vehicle isn't paid off. This is something that happens a lot, believe it or not. If you have a car and you're paying a bank for the car and you want to trade that car in, well, implicit in the agreement to buy a new car from a car dealer is that they will take the trade-in vehicle, take your vehicle as a trade-in, they will value it, give you a value for it, and then they will pay off however much you owe to the bank. And that's why when you go to the dealership, they will want to call and get a payoff number that, for that particular moment, because that number could change. Oh, we have a caller coming in. Caller? Go ahead.
Hi, attorney. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Question for you. You're talking about credit reports, and I purchased a home, attempted to purchase a home a couple months ago, and everything was fine with my credit. I put down some money in escrow, and then when the mortgage company pulled the report right before the closing, there was a judgment on there for $9,000. It did not belong to me. So now we're in panic mode because they told me that we had a problem closing. I started calling the credit bureaus, which we got nowhere with. They were calling the people, but we did get it solved at the last second. It wasn't our judgment. It was a mistake. But I almost lost my money. And now I also received a collection letter on the same account. And it's not me.
That's a lot of stuff. Let me ask you something, caller. When you first went to this lender, did they pull your credit report way back when you first started working with them?
Yes.
And the judgment wasn't there?
2 months before. Yes, that's correct, because I have the before and the after.
And did they identify when that judgment occurred? Had the judgment occurred between those two dates, or was the judgment from way in the past?
It was from in the past.
Okay. So there's a lot there. First of all, the panic mode that you were in, I understand that. A lot of people go through that, and a lot of loan officers have a kind of somebody who they work with that's a quick segue to the credit reporting agencies, and they can try and do a fast turnaround on a dispute. And it sounds to me like you were fortunate enough to do that. Most people are in that situation. The credit bureaus do have 30 days to conduct an investigation, and that can delay things for a home buyer, and it can cause economic loss. Putting something on a credit report that doesn't belong to you, that situation sounds to me like a merge. It sounds to me not like an identity theft situation. It sounds to me more like perhaps the credit bureaus had merged your information with somebody else, and their information showed up in your credit report. The credit bureaus could be liable for that. There is some liability for that. And then it goes beyond that. The next thing you know is you have a collection letter. Well, there's the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act that governs debt collectors, and one would want to inquire as to what the collector was provided that it thought that it can send you a letter to collect this debt, and why it was going after you and not the person who this judgment was really after. So, I mean, thanks for that call, caller. That's a loaded situation, and that's one that probably my office would be really excited to take care of. I'm sorry you had to go through that.
We called the collection agency. They're as rude as can be. They don't care. I said, yes, that's my name, but it's not me. There must be obviously there's somebody I have a common name, which I don't want to say over the air here, but that's where the mix-up is, and they said, oh, we'll investigate it. And I still haven't heard from them. I've called again. I've asked for supervisors. It's not me. and
Well,
they're
first
not
of
removing
all,
it from my credit.
when it comes to a collector contacting you and not contacting you, the truth is no news is good news. Because if a collector really wants your money, they're going to be aggressive and come after you. You can probably tell by the tone that you were dealing with when you were talking to them. That they really didn't care much about hearing what problems you had or what the mistake was. They really only care about collecting money. And if they could exert pressure on you to get you to pay something rather than go investigate something, that would be the route most of them that would take. So
Right.
It doesn't surprise me that you dealt with that. And like I mentioned, there is a law called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. And a debt collector there's a laundry list of duties that they have under the statute. From what you told me, it sounds like a few of them, there may have been a little bit of infraction. So they do have an obligation to investigate this. And if they aren't responding to you and they're not collecting the debt, then they're doing okay. Usually, to sum up the law in just a moment with it, to capsulize it, if a collector just leaves you alone and goes away and doesn't do anything and just kind of burrows away, then they're following the law. It's really when they are making attempts to collect the debt and being aggressive to do it that they're stepping over that line.
But I talked to, I Googled this, credit repair online, and I did talk to a large company in Chicago, and they basically said the same thing as you, and they said that if it doesn't belong to you, it should come off. So I did hire them to work on my credit report for me, and hopefully that nips it in the butt. But it's very, this is not my collection.
Well, obviously it's not, and is the collector reporting the account as well? Is the collection account on your credit report?
Yes.
Okay, well, you've called them up, you've given them the information, you've offered to provide them whatever they need to see. They don't want to see it, they want to continue reporting it. They're violating the law, unquestionably. And you could compound it by sending your dispute to the credit reporting agency, or have this credit repairing company that you're dealing with. I'm sure they're very helpful, and use them to help you dispute this to the credit reporting agencies and tell the reporting agencies, as you've been telling them, this judgment, this account, all of it's not yours. If they don't remove it, then not only will the debt collector be liable for all what you're going through, but the credit reporting agencies will as well. Everybody can can be held to task here if they're not listening to you, as long as you give them all the proper notification, do it the right way. Using a credit repair company in that particular instance would help.
They actually basically said the same thing, and they felt that it should definitely come off. I provided them with a lot of information, copies of my license, but they said that if it doesn't come off, they were actually going to refer it to some attorney in the city. So I'm not quite sure who that is, but maybe it's even you.
That'd be great. Glad to have it.
Okay.
Like I said before, that set of facts is something that my office would have a lot of enjoyment working up and helping the person out with that situation. We surely would.
Your phone number in the background there, 862-4000, that I can call you at?
That's the helpline. If you want to call 773-862-4000, that's 773-862-4000. That is the special helpline if you want help. All right? Call that number. I'm sure you'll get the credit cleaning help that you need.
Great show. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you want to call me at Credit Talk, you can reach me at 312-738-1060. That's 312-738-1060. We still have more time. That was a harrowing story. That had all kinds of things on it. There were two laws applying to that situation. We had the Fair Credit Reporting Act on one end that dealt with the judgment being on a credit report for somebody that it didn't belong. You have the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act on another end, where you have a debt collector who's attempting to collect a debt that doesn't belong to that person and not willing to even talk or come to the table or anything, and just ignoring and putting things on a credit report. And if that consumer disputes their credit report to the credit reporting agencies using that credit cleaning company, if they do that, then and the credit reporting agencies don't take it off, then there's more Fair Credit Reporting Act liability to the credit reporting agencies and the debt collector. Believe it or not, debt collectors could be liable under the Fair Credit Reporting Act as well as the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. In fact, anybody that furnishes information to a credit reporting agency can come under liability under the Fair Credit Reporting Act as a furnisher of information. There's a specific section of it that applies just to them. So that was a great call, caller. I appreciate that. Exciting, the kind of thing that we like to do. So give me a call, 312-738-1060. If you have any questions for me. We're talking about credit. We're talking about credit reports and disputing your credit report. What happens if you dispute your credit report, you send it in, and you don't get a response? Now, the law says you're entitled, the law says that they must respond to you within 30 days. What actually has to happen? Oh, we have another caller coming in. Caller.
Hi. I just checked my credit report last year, and everything was okay. And I'm thinking of buying a second home, and I'm not sure if I can qualify. And at the same time, there was something on my credit a while ago that I'd asked them to take off, and they said they did, but I never double checked. So what's your advice for me?
Okay, so you're entitled to one free credit report every year. You're entitled to go to the credit bureaus and get a report without having to pay for it from each of the 3 credit reporting agencies, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. The place to go is www.annualcreditreport.com. That's annual like yearly, creditreport.com. That is a website. I'll get that call in a second. That's a website that has all 3 credit reporting agencies. That all 3 are there in this one place. You can go into each one and get a free credit report. Go ahead and take a look. You're entitled to look at it. And in fact, you're entitled to see your credit report at any time you want to see it. You might have to pay for it. You get one free one a year, but then you could pay for it. But you're entitled to see it whenever you want. So if you're about to start using your credit and you're about to start applying for a loan and you don't want to just walk in the door and risk what it's going to look like, go right ahead and get your credit report on your own. Take a look at it. You'll find those things. See if those things are that you expected to be missing are off, or if they're still on. You might want to talk to a lawyer like myself, or call 773-862-4000 and have them dispute it for you to make sure it comes off, and then you'll be ready to go ahead and make that application. We still have that caller? Okay, let's take it.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much. You've really been very informative. I have a question. I have a medical bill that unfortunately I just don't have the money to pay right now, and I haven't been able to pay for it yet. I'm working towards it, but this collection company keeps calling me over and over at my house, and now they're calling my work. And they have tried to talk to my boss a couple of times, and I'm getting really nervous, and I'm not really sure what to do. Are they allowed to call my work?
Okay, the answer to that question is not necessarily. There's a lot there. Another great question that was loaded with legalities. So thank you for that. First of all, a debt collector cannot call you at any place that you deem to be inconvenient. If a debt collector is given notice that you do not accept calls at work and you do not want to be called at work, then they can't call you at work. It's as simple as telling them.
Well, I don't even know how they got the number in the first place. I certainly didn't tell them.
Let me say this.
And they don't ask for me at work. They don't even ask for me anymore. They ask for my boss.
Well, that's not right. So a debt collector may not communicate with a third party regarding a debt. That's completely illegal. A debt collector can only communicate with you, the debtor, and anybody else who you tell them it's okay to communicate with. Otherwise, they can't communicate with a third party. The only way they could communicate with an employer legally is to effectuate or execute a judgment. If they have a judgment, then they could communicate with your employer insofar as they need to execute the judgment, meaning to attempt garnishing wages. But if they don't have a judgment against you, then there's absolutely no business whatsoever that they have calling your employer or asking for your employer. They're trying to exert pressure on you to scare you to call them up and make payments to them. It's not appropriate. So
Okay,
what they're doing is wrong.
How can I get them to stop that?
You simply tell them, and if they're not listening to you, you can put it in writing. But you let them know this is not welcome. And if they continue to do it, call a lawyer. All right? Call our help desk, and our help desk will help get you to a lawyer. 773-862-4000, and get to an attorney who will attack that debt collector for violating the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Because even if they do have a judgment and they're trying to execute it, then there's no need to actually call your employer. They can simply mail the documentation over that they need to. It'll go to the right hands. So there's no real reason for that.
I don't believe there's a judgment. I'm not aware of anything like that. So I think I'll call and get the help of an attorney, and I will call that number, the 4000 number. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Good luck.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was a great call. That's medical debts are something that have always been a problem and are becoming a bigger problem because the health system. There's so many people that are always so confused as to whether or not insurance covers something, or is this bill that I'm getting something that my insurance was supposed to cover, or was this supposed to be my copay? If you have a serious injury and you're hospitalized for a period of time, it's so confusing because you have the hospital bill, then you have the particular doctor's bill, you'll have a radiologist bill, you'll have an ER doctor bill, you'll have a physical therapy bill, and you think it's all going to one place, but then you get bombarded from all these different places. And the next thing you know, you're in collections because you couldn't keep up with what's going on. And for many people, it wasn't that they didn't want to pay. And for some people, it's not that they couldn't. Unfortunately, some people can't, and that's an unfortunate situation. But you're entitled to be treated with dignity and respect by a collector, so there's no reason that you shouldn't be. But there's the credit reporting agencies have recently install new regulations regarding the reporting of medical debts on credit reports, and what we're going to start seeing is delays in reporting. There's supposed to be a 180-day delay from the time that a debt collection agency submits something for credit reporting until the credit reporting agency actually puts it on the credit report. And this is just because of the just unreliability that there has been in the credit reporting industry when it comes to medical debts, and it comes to whether or not these bills are even reliable. Are they supposed to be covered by insurance? I can't begin to tell you how many times I've had people call me and tell me that it was covered by insurance, but it was put through the wrong way. And the medical facility didn't put the proper billing code. And because it didn't put the proper billing code on there, it didn't get covered. But the insurance company was glad to cover it if it was billed to them correctly. I don't know who's right or wrong in that situation. Is the doctor's office wrong for not doing the right billing code, or is it the insurance company being a little overly picky when they know one of their insureds is in the hospital they should be paying for it? I don't know. But what's come out from this so far is that consumers are getting confused and consumers are having problems. So anyway, we're getting close to the end of my time with you guys. I just wanted to tell you it's been a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you for you callers that called in with your great questions. I really appreciate it. I hope I imparted some good knowledge. If you want our help desk, call the help desk, 773-862-4000. This has been Credit Talk. My name's Larry Smith. I'm a consumer rights attorney. We had a wonderful night tonight. We talked about disputing your credit report, how to do it, what's the best way to do it. Hopefully you got my conclusion that I think you should write them, and I think you should mail it, and I think you should make sure you mail it in a way that you can assure that it's been delivered. We had some questions about debt collection tonight, and Hopefully it was a little off of the credit talk situation, but collectors do get on your credit reports. So, had a wonderful time this evening. Thank you all very much. This has been Credit Talk. I'm Larry Smith.